Recording.
Just
What's up, beautiful people? So we are back at it again. We just recorded a beautiful podcast series, and we're doing this so that we can get the message across in the time that we have, and that we can continue using our time wisely to be that change that we want to see in the community. It's your girl, Leanne. We're getting blissed out with Andrew Rezmer from Conscious Living Radio, Conscious Living Network. How are you doing, Andrew?
I'm perfectly well.
Love it. So Heart-Based Community Podcast Series, we're going to number 4 right now. We're going to reflect a little bit about what we've been doing. We're going from the consciousness aspects, the unconscious, filtering into holding space, and then working with collaboration versus competition. We just highlighted that, moving into the marketplace and how we can move into a marketplace. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into this topic in this podcast series because there's so much into that itself, reflectively with personal experiences and reflectiveness. So building a bridge of exchange and nourishment with the holistic selling focus, Andrew, you know, what do you want to highlight here? Maybe you can highlight a bit about your personal experiences and systems and trade principles that you might reflect on your journey already now that you're doing it in Vancouver.
Okay, so fair trade and exchange. I think I like the wording you used, the building bridge of exchange and nourishment. That's very poetic. So normally the purpose, I want us to go back to this whole concept, why, how this whole concept of working together, community and exchange was created in the past, and it's still being functioning among other species of life. It's easier to survive when there is collaboration, when instead of me needing to create everything from scratch, when we rely on each other. Someone is expert in this and they create this. Let's say in the village, someone is responsible for safety, someone is for growing food, someone is to taking this food, those plants and making it edible, someone is to create a fire. And so we collaborate. And the purpose of that collaboration is for sustainability and growth of that community, of those people who are working together. That's the purpose in the first place, for survival, to make it more sustainable and make it more efficient. So that's the goal. And now with all those changes and all the improvements we added into that goal is almost forgotten. We go to the store and we buy food because we have cash, we have money. And we buy food, we don't know who produced that food, where it came from. We don't know those farmers who planted and put their hand in the soil, who put it out, who clean it. We don't know those truckers who brought it to our store. We don't know those store clerks that put it together on the shelf so it looks nice. We don't know nothing of that. We're just, so there is this disconnection. And I think the questions we don't ask because we want to get as much as possible for as little as possible. So we want, it's this whole concept of competition. It's like, I want to pay as little as possible and get out of my contribution and my payment as much as I can. So we're looking for deals, we're looking for, anything that we can get. And that's not necessarily fair trade. If in this process there is a farmer who is working 16 hours a day and is breaking their back and producing something that we all need for survival, but his needs are not met because he has to now compete with some genetically modified production facility that can produce something that is called food in much, let's say, more efficient way, but is actually destroying our health in the process. So at the end, we pay less for that food because it's bigger, it's cheaper, it looks nicer because it's genetically modified to be bigger, to look nicer, to be more sweet. But the diseases and challenges that it creates cost more at the end, cost me more and cost society more, because people have cancers, they have diabetes, they have other challenges. So I saved $1 on buying genetically modified apples, but society and me are going to spend thousands of dollars to deal with consequences of that $1 saving.
Mm.
See, and that's not being addressed. That's not being, because we are not aware, we are not attached, we don't know enough. We just do whatever is the easiest because our marketing companies are showing, or because we are attracted to something that is bigger, that is more colorful, that is rounder, that is whatever, more, perfect. And so sustainable, the bridging the exchange and nourishing each other is important, that we are more connected with the whole process on every aspect, on everything. We know how food ends up on our plate. We know, how companies are producing it, how fair they are to the environment in the process, how fair they are to their employees, how fair they are to the customers. All of those, even if right now, the challenge is, if I want to go to a new community and I want to find, let's say, a restaurant that I want to support and I want to be nourished by, all the evaluation that is being offered right now, a majority of evaluation, I go to, Facebook Marketplace, or I can go to Google and see the reviews, or I can go to LinkedIn or whatever other social media platforms that are being used to evaluate someone's contributions, that restaurant's contribution. That contribution, that evaluation right now is based on customer satisfaction, and the customer satisfaction is measured by how much they paid and how much they got out of it. So when the customer feels, oh, I paid a little price for that meal and it was so good and there's so much of it, that's the where I get a thumbs up. And but that there's no question how creation of that plate of food, what was the social impact, how many people needed to be involved, what is the environmental impact, how much the pollution would we create to create that plate, what is the other impacts, how are the people who are working in this facility being treated. All those, there's no question, there's no evaluation in that area. We just, okay, it's a cheap food and I get a lot of it and it tastes good, let's take it. But all the other very important, probably more important questions from the bigger picture point of view, nobody's asking. Right? So fair trade principles requires each of us to be more aware and to ask more questions. Because we're relying, okay, probably government make sure that if something is called organic, that's probably better than non-organic. And I'm going to rely on that. Or if something is certified or something is this or that, or probably government is going to make sure that they don't pollute. No government is really checking that. And because we don't expect our government to do that, really. Government are trying to, what they're spending most of the time on is to make sure that they're going to be reelected. And so that's, and they're measuring what is the best way of spending time, energy, and money to ensure that they are being popular and they're still potentially have a chance to, as a society, as a platform, or as a party, or as individual, that they have chance to still have power and be elected and control having and continue having that power. So yeah, so that's the challenge that we as a society and we individually got to figure out. I was working with a friend of mine. We're talking about creating a world love bank where the love is the currency that we're exchanging, and love could be exchanged in a format of food. I create a food for you. That's my love. Because let's say I'm a farmer, or I'm a restaurateur, but I would love in this world love bank, or that's what we're talking about, at least creating this. It's a platform when we're asking more questions. That's how good was this food in this restaurant, or how cheap it was, but also questions from how is this restaurant contributing to society, to community, to environment? How are they making sure that their impact is as positive as possible, that they don't pollute, that they don't release grease into a toilet, or garbage into something that could be compostable? How do we make sure that they use as little as renewable sources and stuff? How do we invite and inspire each other to look into that, so it doesn't we don't make decisions just based on price. We make decision on the entire holistic impact it has on everything that we need to survive, on air, on water, community, environment.
I'm just like absorbing, and I'm watching this vision sitting here, and I've seen this vision already, see myself sitting here already. And I'm watching all the other things that are coming from this because of this energy of being whole. How do we find out what wholeness is? Shedding a light on what does that mean to everybody also is very important. A holistic selling mindset has to come from, well, what is wholeness? What is holistic? And my contribution in this moment is just to remind people, watch your breath a little bit longer, right? That's how I came to understand, the things that happen in my dreams, or why things were happening within time, or how can I contribute? This is my part of saying I'm showing up. I've been watching, I've been sitting. Now it's action, putting love into action. The love into action movement, or the love currency of what we can contribute, or where we can keep bringing these ideas, is really behaving that way moment to moment. And what, Andrew, you're offering us is that opportunity to say, okay, yeah, I've arrived. I want to be more whole. I want to share that wholeness. I want to bring out the best of what I've learned, and I can contribute. This is like 100 years now between me and you. And also continuing to invite people to show up and grow, because, this is where the love currency is who is out there available with the understanding about better farming and better soil. And we're looking for you. We're looking for you who wants to talk about an opportunity of, what did you feel with love today in your method that can help somebody's mind come off of drugs? We're looking for you. Or who's using the drugs and using those drugs to remember what the mind is, to expand and to use them in a way that's very healthy and helpful. We're looking for you. So moving with that feeling, and I just felt I'd express that just because I could see the expansion in that moment. We're building this bridge of exchange and nourishment. We're talking about opportunities, our insights, and then we're putting them into action. And now, without taking space from somebody else, we did talk about that in the previous podcast, and just that, competition and collaboration, that little bit of difference, but Andrew, maybe you can shed a little bit more about, now that we're building that holistic understanding and that nourishment in a fair trade system, but now we want to make sure that we're growing without taking space from somebody else. So shed your feelings there.
Well, I don't know if it's possible to grow without taking space. The growth automatically means that we are taking, growing means, imagine if you have a, plant that takes that much space, if it doubles, it will take space from other potential plants. Each time when I inhale, I'm using oxygen that potentially other living form will not have. So now the concept is there is a continuous flow. It's like a dance, right? We lead and we led. We inhale oxygen, but exhale carbon dioxide and the other other gases that may be required for other forms of life. So we take, but we give in the process. So yes, we will take each time when we grow, we take space. The question is, are we doing in a conscious way that is still creating opportunity for other forms of life to be sustained in this process? So we don't become the only one. Like I love this this image. As you know, one of my projects is Spirit Plant Conference, Spirit Plant Medicine Conference that talks about different indigenous cultures and ceremonies and ways to involve plants that have a certain impact on us, like ayahuasca, San Pedro, peyote, or other. And from what we know, it's been thousands of years that indigenous cultures have used that to grow, to expand, and to connect with nature. And some of those are mushrooms. And when I started, studying mushrooms, I found out that mushroom is just a fruit, really, of a huge tree of mycelium that is growing a few inches under the top soil, under the top of the soil. And that mycelium is like a network of, like our internet network, except it doesn't just process and move information among every living form of life that is attached to that soil. So every tree is connected with other trees. Every plant is connected with other plants. And if there is a part of the soil, part of the or tree that is suffering because of lack of nutrients or lack of whatever other reasons for that tree to be compromised, mycelium finds that and sends nutrients to that part of the forest. Why? Because mycelium needs this tree, but that tree needs the mycelium. And those trees are communicating among themselves. If one tree sees another tree that is compromised, it sends its own juices, its own nutrients from that tree to another tree to support. Because as a community, as a group of trees, they're much easier to survive, and they keep the entire ecosystem. They keep the mycelium, they keep the bacteria that is good, keep the mushrooms, keep the grass, keep the flowers, keep everything. And now then they keep the insects, and insects keep the birds, and so on. And there's this full cycle, and we forgot that we're part of that cycle. We thought we are in the it's that everything there is this attitude that everything that nature has to offer is for me, for us to take advantage of, to enjoy. Yes and no, because it's just a part of the cycle. And remembering and inquiring and learning about those cycles and making sure that we don't interfere with those cycles is the most important steps that we can do to protect ourselves as a species from self-destruction.
Wow, I just feel like where I'm taking up space, or as I'm growing, as I'm growing and taking up space from somebody else, we're never really taking up space, is we're creating more space to be together.
Yeah, if it's included, if we include everything else that is impacted by who we are and how we live, yes.
So this is the approach that we have to see coming this way versus what we're doing is like this. It's like we're going so uncomfortable. Why don't we just flow, right, and grow? And that was delicious. I really felt good, and I was seeing the mushrooms just like expanding in nature. I feel like at this point of talking about this and knowing that we're completing each other through this, what are some of your suggestions as to looking into each other then? Because what should we be doing to make that shift? What would be one method that you'd say to be one of the first really good methods of your own personal experience of how to change those eyes?
That is I'm going to try to explore that topic but I'm also inspired by this, the move with this whatever. So, so this is a story. I'm sure you may have heard it, but I still like the story enough to repeat it. So someone is on the other side. They passed on, and someone is giving a tour between heaven and hell. So they go in and to hell first, and hell, it looks like there's lots of lights, party music. It's like upbeat, and lots of people are sitting in front of the table that is filled with delicious foods. And everything smells so beautifully, and everything is there. But people are very sad. They're crying, and they're sitting there very depressed and sad. So this person asks, they have everything they need. Why are they so sad? And the angel that creates this tour shows them, look, their hands cannot bend, so they cannot feed themselves. They have everything that they may want to enjoy their life, but they can't, because they can't bend their hand to bring the food into their mouth. That's why they're suffering. Okay, show me the heaven then. So they go to another space, and it's exactly identical scene. This beautiful upbeat music and the smells and the same food on the plate, and everybody is happy and joyful and chattering and laughing and having fun. What's the difference? Their hand is still stiff, but they use their hand to feed each other.
Oh, beautiful.
So that's the attitude I want us to have. How can we use all that we have and feed each other instead of grabbing and just stuffing ourselves with it?
So that would be more of a holistic, would be the giving, the holistic of looking in to be whole with yourself. And I feel like, the whole thing about being whole and the holistic approach is your practice daily of the setting that intention, which you talked about, the tension and the intention. Because I feel the wholeness, we're never fully whole. We come into this to grow, right? Even though we're making this approach to realize, okay, yes, it's important to have a holistic approach based on that feeling of hell versus heaven within us. And then making a choice about, well, how do I better the community? Well, I'm conscious now, so these words go along with it. But then there's still that everyday waking up and the practice of what wholeness means.
Yeah, and it's an inquiry, because imagine if we are in this heaven and I like pineapple, but you don't, and I assume that and I'll feed you, I'll stuff you with pineapples, you're not going to be happy. So I need to know, what do you like? What do you need? What are your values? What is your approach? How much you want? Why? How? All of those, we need to understand each other in order to be in health and nourish each other. We can't just assume that because I like something, I'm assuming that everybody else does. Right? It's this like in the Bible, there is this concept of golden rule: treat others the way they want, you want to be treated. Treat others the way they want to. You want to be treated. But that's not true. Treat others. I call it the platinum rule. Treat others the way they want to be treated, not the way you want to be treated. If I like, I'm drinking. I hate coffee, by the way. I don't like coffee, so I'm drinking mushroom tea. But if someone likes coffee and they offers me coffee and and keep giving me coffee because they like it, that's a golden rule. I'll be miserable. I don't like coffee. Right? So treat others the way they want to be treated. So
and giving that space and freedom. Yeah, giving that space and freedom by listening to them. I mean, I'm still seeing that with my children too, because I don't own anything. I just try to create an awareness of listening to each other more. Maybe we can also finish off this with a closing into, we've talked a lot about building that bridge of exchange, the fair trade principles, being holistic, contributing by helping others to see. What would you like to finish off here, Andrew? You lead the rest of this, and this will be, I think, the end of this aspect with the heart-based community. I think there's a lot that we've covered in these 4 podcasts. What would you like to contribute to the end of this?
I think it's the invitation. So it's not just our conversation, you and me, trying to save the world and so on. It is invitation to grow together and to have other voices. So the community, people who are inspiring, who are listening to us, to contribute their questions or their suggestions or their path, and how they see, because as a community, this whole concept is to be open, to invite, to inspire. So let's do that. Let's hear from others. You can leave either voice message, you can leave the printed message or the text message, whatever way, and we will try to incorporate that into the website, so that way it becomes a conversation, not just a monologue.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I think we got a lot of information here, viewers. Likewise, remember to click like, click share on Bliss Out Network, Conscious Living Radio, Conscious Living Network, and also follow myself and Andrew Rezmer. Stay in touch. We're waiting for you. It's the invitation. It's open. There's more to come. We're excited, and stay in the flow. Andrew, so good to be with you today. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon where you are.
Thank you.
Send you so much love.
Thank you so much.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Bye.